with those safeguards in place, does that reassure you at all, or would you never vote for this sort of... You obviously don't have a vote in this, but you would never touch it?
No, I don't think it's a good way to go. I think this comes down to how we value people, no matter the situation they're in, no matter their health situation. All people's lives are really important and should be valued as such. People's lives are precious and should be looked after and cared for right up to the point that they die.
But 300 million people around the world live in countries where there is this choice. Shouldn't the people of Wales, the people of UK have that choice too?
Yeah, and those people in those countries where that choice is given are experiencing now a really slippery slope. Many people in those countries, originally the legislation was set out to cover things like cancer and terminal illnesses. In those countries, like in Canada, that's now covering chronic illnesses, people with disabilities, and are now pushing even further to cover people with mental health illnesses as well. It's a slippery slope, which is not good at all.
What about that point of a slippery slope? Now, Kim Leadbeater says, you know, it's not the Canadian model, it's the US model, but it could always change, couldn't it?
This is going to be our legislation. It is a bill, you know, that will hopefully become an act, and then that has to be replaced by another bill. You know, so it is not going to happen. It cannot be amended once it has passed. So the whole argument of the slippery slope, having been brought up a very strict Catholic, absolutely doesn't wash with me, because it is not a slippery slope. This is one of the things that Kim has really drilled home, that we are going to stick to this. It is going to have great amount of time in Parliament to be debated, amended, and so...
But when the Health Secretary of the UK, Wes Streeting, he has reservations, he's going to vote against. You know, he says that people could be guilt-tripped into feeling, and those are his words, into feeling that they should do it, you know, that they are a burden on their family. You can't legislate for that, can you?
Coercive control will be, you know, illegal, and if it is proven.
But this is somebody feeling it themselves, within themselves, and putting pressure on themselves.
And also, when you've been in that position, we are now making the assumption, by talking about this bill, you are making the assumption that people will, you know, want to kill themselves and want to put themselves in that. We need better palliative care. We need to have a conversation, an honest conversation, about how we are going to die if you are faced with a terminal illness.
Why not focus on better palliative care then?
Because we can talk about both. It's a choice. We're talking about bodily autonomy and having that opportunity to make that choice for yourself and being in the right mind.
What about the safeguards, though, Sam? Because as Tonya Antoniazzi says, you know, you have to be an adult, you have to be of sound mind. So somebody with dementia can't, for example, somebody paralysed, you can't be in a coma. There are lots of safeguards here that it has to be that person's decision and that person's will. And a high judge, a court, has to come and chat.
The safeguards may be spoken of. I'm not convinced at all that they'll be anywhere near good enough. I was speaking to a gentleman last night, David, who was diagnosed with lung cancer. He was told he had 6 months to live. He would fit into this category. I met him last night. His diagnosis was given 6 years ago, and he's volunteering for Tenebris Cancer, supporting lots of people through their concerns.
Well, what about that? Yeah,
he would have been
absolutely great. Isn't it wonderful? Because life is wonderful. I love it. It's absolutely amazing. But you've got to have that choice. David didn't want that choice, or if he doesn't want that choice, then he doesn't have to have it.
On that point,
you're not taking that away from him.
Yeah, sorry. On that point of choice, you highlighted a moment ago this concern that people feel a burden to their family. In Oregon, where this has been legal for a long time, 48% of people felt that one of the reasons they chose this assisted dying because they felt they were a burden to their family. That, for me, is a terrible state of affairs and not a route I want to go down.
If it were passed in Westminster and Wales had to implement it, would you want it devolved as it is in Scotland and maybe reverse it?
So as Conservatives, we believe the current devolution settlement doesn't need further devolution powers into the Senate. But let's not forget, about a month ago, a similar debate was held in the Senate here in Cardiff, and the overwhelmingly support against assisted dying in the devolved legislation here in the Senate.
Must be one of the biggest decisions you've had to make as an MP, this vote on Friday.
I've led two Westminster Hall debates on assisted dying, I have spoken to everybody. I have done the research. I think about it very deeply. My own personal situation, when you have parents facing death, you think about it deeply. What people need is to have that open and honest conversation with their doctors and know where they stand and have that choice for their dignity.
And how do you think it'll go on Friday?
I think it's going to be tight, but I also think that there's going to be a good debate and discussion, and the parliamentary process will be good.
Tonia Antoniazzi, thank you very much. And Sam Rowlands, thank you too for coming in this evening.